What's up, guys? Welcome into another Wolverine live recruiting show. It is the Wednesday show, which means I am answering your questions. For those of you that don't know, I am EJ Holland, lead recruiting reporter at thewolverine.com. Before we dive into this week's show, we do have a message from our great sponsor, vitaminenergy.com. Vitamin Energy is a powerful, naturally caffeinated energy shot that nourishes your body with vitamins, supports healthy weight loss, and boosts energy for 7+ hours with no jitters or sugar crash. I use Vitamin Energy when I'm on the road seeing recruits. Helps keep me awake with weird travel schedules. So make sure to give Vitamin Energy a try. It's naturally caffeinated, gluten free, has zero sugars. There's something for everybody. There's the immune and mood booster, the B12 vitamin D, the workout plus, the sport plus, the focus shot. There's no jitters, no crash. It supports gut health. It's energy with benefits. Be the best version of yourself by visiting vitaminenergy.com and using Wolverine BOGO. You buy one, you get one free with promo code Wolverine BOGO at vitaminenergy.com. Obviously, this show is presented to you by the Wolverine.com, where you can get great recruiting information, team information, hockey information. You can be part of a great message board community over on the fort with more than 8,000 unique individual members. Come join the discussion and get your insider recruiting information over at thewolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st. It's a perfect time to subscribe with the spring game this weekend. All right, that was a mouthful. Let's go ahead and get to the real reason you're here, which is the questions. Shout out to Indigo Ronin and everybody joining the chat early. If you want to leap ahead in the chat line, make sure to hit the donate button. That can access a super chat and helps me get on the road, see recruits across the country. All that money goes directly to our travel budget. So make sure to hit the donate button. Let's go with Indigo Ronin. And his first question is Jaden Davis committing Friday, dominoes will fall. Over under 5 commitments in response to Davis's commitment. And who are the likely ones to commit because of it? Definitely interesting question. I saw Domino's and I thought we were gonna attack Zach Libby for his trash Little Caesars take last night. If you missed yesterday's show, you can head over to our YouTube channel, which you already know how to access, and click Tuesday's live show to see Zach Libby's horrendous pizza takes. But let's go ahead and talk about Jaden Davis. If he does commit Friday, which again is fully expected, I am completely confident there. No reason to worry on my end. I do think you could see some other domino. Um, I'm not sure that there will be more than 5 commitments, so I would go under there as far as being a direct response to Jaden picking Michigan. But I do think his commitment would definitely help the Wolverines with several targets. Some guys that come to mind, well, obviously you look at the pass catchers, right? Guys want to catch passes from top level quarterbacks. I had a conversation with Amarion Stewart earlier this week, a priority wide receiver out of Chicago, and Amarion was quick to say if Jaden Davis commits to Michigan, it would definitely help. They actually played together at an FBU All-American game when they were freshmen, so there's already a little bit of chemistry there. So I would definitely say Amarion Stewart. You look at Jaden Davis's teammates, and obviously Michigan is in a great spot with both Jordan Shipp, Channing Goodwin, both very realistic options. Channing Goodwin is obviously a legacy recruit as well, being the son of ex-Wolverine Jonathan Goodwin. Jordan Shipp, I think, is getting a lot of pressure to stay in state. North Carolina and NC State are working extremely hard to keep him close to home, but he kind of fits the profile of a Michigan type of kid. I think Shipp would make his own decision, but at the same time, having Jaden Davis committed would only help in that recruitment as well. Obviously, Jaden had a lot of time with Brady Prescorn during his last unofficial visit. And I think he would definitely help out with Prescorn, especially since Prescorn plays in like a run heavy, weird style offense. I think Jaden, being the quarterback at Michigan, he would maybe have an opportunity to catch more passes than he does at the high school level. Michigan obviously has a great history of utilizing the tight end position. So I think he would help out with Prescorn as well. So those are some of the pass catchers. I mean, on that same visit weekend, Jaden also had a chance to spend time with offensive lineman Blake Frazier, another Michigan legacy recruit who's considered a heavy lean. Would probably help out there as well. Just another voice in his ear that's pro Michigan. Another prospect that I would throw out there is Walt Claire Flynn, a priority center target out of Georgia. Davis is originally from Georgia and is a childhood friend of Walt Claire Flynn. So I think he would help out in that recruitment as well. So those are some of the names that, are easier ones to definitely throw out there. Looks like we have a super chat from Shane Johnson. Let's go down to Shane Johnson. And he says, why are all recruiting services inconsistent from each other? And will Jaden Davis be announced as a 4 or 5-star Friday at ESPN? Would be the biggest sign since Charles Woodson. Well, I mean, Michigan has landed higher rated recruits than Jaden Davis, I believe. Rashawn Gary would definitely come to mind. Jabril Peppers, I would believe, would be higher ranked as well. As far as what he will be announced, I'm assuming if the announcement is on ESPN, which it is on Sports Center, he will be announced as a 4-star because I just clicked over on my tab and he is a 4-star on ESPN. So if they use their own network rankings, then he would be announced as a 4-star. Obviously, he is a 5-star on 2 of the 4 major recruiting services. Rivals and 24/7 have him ranked as a 5-star. ESPN and On3 have him ranked as a 4-star. Why are all recruiting services inconsistent from each other? Well, rankings are subjective, man. I mean, and the other thing about recruiting services is a lot of these guys aren't necessarily getting out on the road. You have a lot of guys that, just sit in basements and watch film all day. You have some guys that do get on the road. I mean, On3's Charles Power gets out to a few different camps. He's been on a lot more, but, you have Rivals that largely bases it on camps. And I think there's just a lot of differing ways to evaluate kids. But at the end of the day, it's opinion based, it's subjective. So you're going to have some differing opinions. I mean, what I put stock into, others might not put stock into when they're evaluating guys. Some guys really evaluate when projecting to the NFL. When I do evaluations over at the Wolverine, it's projecting for college football and primarily for Michigan. So I think it's just different for a lot of people. We have some more super chats to get to. Zach Libby has joined after being booted from the telecast and says super chats go to my Little Caesars budget. They do not believe Zach Libby. I mean, he can buy as much Little Caesars as he wants, though. Isn't it only like $5 for that hot and ready pizza? I feel like you could buy, month supply with the super chat since it's so cheap and crappy. So definitely not in the Little Caesars bandwagon. We have another super chat from John Stacy, who says, who's the next 24 commit besides Jaden Davis? Well, yeah, Jaden Davis, I think, will be the next commit. As far as after Jaden Davis, that's a bit of a tough one. I think you're seeing some of the leans waited out a little bit. Like Aaron Childs is taking it into summer. Blake Frazier is likely to take it into summer. Marion Stewart has said he wants to take it into summer. But, maybe the Jaden Davis commitment will get some guys wanting to join the class. One guy I didn't mention in terms of who Jaden Davis would help with. I mean, another guy is Brian Robinson. I feel like those two guys have talked a lot. They've been on a visit together. So he's definitely one that Davis would help with. And he's one of those guys that's been a lean for a while. Maybe he decides to hop in the class. I know I just said maybe Blake Frazier takes it into summer, especially with him, releasing a top 5 soon and stuff. But I mean, I feel like he's a guy that could just pull the trigger at any point, especially given his connections with his father, Steve, having played at Michigan, with the visit a couple of weeks ago, having gone so well. I think Blake Frazier could just pop at any time and not even take it in the summer. Maybe the same goes for Amarion Stewart, Channing Goodwin being a legacy recruit. I think he's the guy that could hop on at any time as well. So yeah, I don't think there's one true guy like Davis who has a set, commitment date, but I do think that there are several options to jump in the class. All right, nice flurry of super chats there, guys. Appreciate it. Keep it going. That money goes directly to my travel budget, and you get to skip ahead in the line. All right, let's go down to Go Blue 81. He says, "Hey EJ, was wondering how we are doing with Emilio Agard and Hill, and if we get Davis on Friday, will wide receivers like Mike Matthews and Miles Graham be more inclined to following him here?" So in terms of the receivers, I think it's going to be tough to land one of those 5-star wideouts. Even with Davis jumping on board, I don't see any movement with top 100 wide receivers. But maybe that does change. Mylan Graham. It is Mylan, not Miles. Mylan Graham. Visited Michigan earlier this offseason. He's looking to make a return visit before the offseason. So I would definitely say he's more realistic than Mike Matthews. Maybe something shakes there, but I do think he's an Ohio State lean at this point. Mike Matthews, for those of you that don't know, the number 8 overall recruit in the country. He listed Michigan in his top 12, but yeah, I still think he's pretty much a long shot there. Going to the corners, Emilio Agard. He is a 3-star prospect out of Philadelphia. He's visited Michigan on multiple occasions, again, at the cornerback position. He is planning to take an official visit to Michigan, has Michigan in what appears to be a Final Four, but I believe he is a Clemson lean at this point. And Hill, I'm having a brain fart on Hill. So you will have to get back to me on which Hill you are referring to. There is Daniel Hill, the new linebacker target. I must just be blanking, man. So Go Blue 81, get me a first name, and I will get back to you. All right, Go Blue 81 did have another question, and he says, I see that Taylor Tatum is in the thumbnail. How's it going with him? Could be shaping up to be a great class, and also heard that Kirk Campbell knocked it out of the park with Cutter Boley. Great to hear. Taylor Tatum, I still think, is a very viable option for Michigan, even with Jordan Marshall committed. Like I reported after the Marshall commitment, I mean, Taylor Tatum texted me back basically immediately and was like, nothing but a little competition. So right now, Tatum is still planning to make a summer official visit to Michigan. I still think the Wolverines are in a great spot there. There are some Southern schools definitely pushing, including Georgia, where he's set to visit this weekend, I believe. So, it is going to be a tough battle to get Taylor Tatum on board, but I think Michigan continues to be right in the thick of things. It is very possible that Mike Hart can come away with 2 top 100 backs, but we'll see right there. I think I'm tempering expectations a little bit, but still realistic. And Cutter Boley, the nation's number 3 quarterback in the 2025 recruiting class. I'm having to give you guys rankings off the top of my head because we are still without a producer, unfortunately, so bear with me. But I do think Cutter Boley is the number 3 quarterback per On 3. I think he's a 5-star level prospect. I did a big story on Bryce Underwood and him being the guy for 2025, but I would be over the moon if I were a Michigan fan if the Wolverines are able to land Cutter Boley. And yes, this weekend did go really well with Kirk Campbell. I actually spent half an hour yesterday talking to Cutter Boley's quarterback trainer who joined him on the visit, and he had a lot of great things to say about Kirk Campbell and the job Michigan is doing recruiting Cutter Boley. So I'll have an update with Boley's trainer tomorrow, and it'll be a lengthy one where he really goes in depth on Boley's game and the Michigan visit. A lot of great stuff going to be in that article, so you're going to want to check it out at thewolverine.com. But Boley's a guy that's already visited Michigan on multiple occasions. I do think the Wolverines have a really, really good shot in that recruitment for sure. Let's go ahead and go down to Rocky Fura. And he says, EJ, why was your mock draft of the class so weak? Man, I don't think it was that weak. For those of you that didn't see it, I did do a mock Michigan recruiting class over at the Wolverine.com. I might have been more conservative than optimistic, I guess. Like, for example, instead of putting Taylor Tatum in there, I went with Harry Stewart just to be on the safer side as the second running back. Or I guess at cornerback, I only gave Michigan one, Austin Alexander, and I had them missing out on Aaron Scott and Bryce West. But man, those I think Tatum is more realistic than Bryce West and Aaron Scott, to be completely honest with you. I mean, with Bryce West ties to Ohio State, I just I don't feel really comfortable giving Michigan the nod there. Aaron Scott's a little bit more wide open. I could see him, but I still feel like that one's going to be really tough. But you never know. I mean, Klink is one of the best recruiters on staff. He's done a phenomenal job of rebuilding bridges in Ohio. So we'll see. And like I said, Tatum's still realistic. I just went with the safer route as a running back, too. But overall, there are a lot of top 100 prospects in there. I think I had let's see, I had Jaden's a top 100 prospect. Jordan Marshall's a top 100 prospect. Brady Prescorn is a top 100 prospect. Aaron Childs is a top 100 prospect. I even threw Zaquan Patterson in there as a top 100 prospect. I think he was my surprise of the mock class. I think Jay Harbaugh and Steve Klinsko have a chance to land a big time safety, whether that's Zaquan Patterson or Jordan Johnson Rubel. I think both of those guys are realistic with a strong summer official visit. I think the class I did would still be top 10. So I don't think it was weak. I disagree. Let's go ahead and go down to Jackson Hells. And he says, who is your favorite recruit of the 2024 cycle that Michigan has a chance with? Aaron Childs. I mean, I've been a big Aaron Childs guy for more than a year now. I wrote that Michigan should offer Aaron Childs before he had an offer from the Wolverines. I've been extremely high on him. I saw him last offseason at the Under Armour camp in Baltimore. I saw him at the Ray Lewis camp in Cleveland. I saw him again in the fall, and he's just a Junior Colson clone. I mean, he's exactly what Junior Colson was as a prospect. That's why I have him graded way higher than the recruiting services do. I think Childs is 103, so maybe he's not a top 100 prospect, but he's 103 on the industry rankings, and I have him closer to a 5-star level guy, just like I had Junior. I think he's basically the exact same player, but on top of that, he's just such a great kid. I mean, just awesome to talk to. Really enjoy my interactions with him. I mean, he's just a Michigan kid all the way. I love that the Wolverines have become a major player for Aaron Childs because he's long been one of my favorite guys in the class. And some of the other guys I really enjoyed talking to, Marion Stewart. Definitely, I've known him since he was an 8th grader. So, I mean, I've known Marion for a long, long time. He's a great kid. Jordan Ship, really loved my interactions with both him and Channing Goodwin. Just both of them are really great kids as well. All of those guys kind of fit that Michigan mold for sure. Let's go ahead and go down to C. Faust. And he says, does Davis committing reduce the chances of a 5-star quarterback in the 2025 recruiting class? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it depends on who the guy is. I mean, if it's Bryce Underwood, I said this yesterday on the podcast and I wrote it in today's story. Bryce doesn't care, man. Bryce thinks he's better than everybody, and he very well might be. I mean, he's the number 1 overall recruit in the country. Let's say Davis commits to Michigan on Friday as expected. I don't think that changes anything with Bryce Underwood. I think Bryce Underwood thinks, hey, I can go in there and beat out Jaden Davis, and I think he can. I think Bryce Underwood is the better prospect. I think Bryce is just a phenomenal talent. I mean, he's the number 1 recruit in the country for a reason. And so I had a lot of people, comment on today's story that I did on Bryce and say, well, what if Michigan gets Jaden? That does hamper things with Bryce because Bryce wants to play as a true freshman. Well, I mean, look at the Michigan quarterback room. Let's say JJ stays for his senior year, then Jaden would redshirt. If JJ leaves, I still think there's a transition year. I don't think Jaden Davis starts as a true freshman, whether it's Davis Warren or they get in a transfer for a season, a grad transfer or something for a season. I don't think they think I got knocked off the podcast for a little bit. I think the Wi-Fi went out. Oh man. Okay, can you guys see me? Hopefully you can. I'm not sure what's going on. Again, we don't have a producer right now, so it is tough sledding with technical difficulties. Anyway, hopefully you guys can see me. Let me know in the comments below. We're good. We're back on. Okay, great. Jesus. I lost my train of thought, but what I was kind of getting at is there's going to be a gap year. I don't think Jaden Davis starts as a true freshman. And that means that whoever that gap year quarterback is, whether it's JJ as a senior or a grad transfer or Davis Warren, whatever, I think it'll be fair competition for Bryce Underwood to come in and start as a true freshman and beat out Jaden Davis. So there would still be a clear path for playing time. So I don't think Bryce would care. I'm not sure Cutter Boley would care either. I mean, I think Cutter Boley is a better prospect than Jaden Davis. Like I said, I think Cutter's a 5-star, so I'm not sure he would care either. And that same path to where you have a gap year and come in and compete against Jaden Davis for the starting job, I think Cutter Boley would be all about it. Now, if you get into quarterbacks that are ranked after those two guys, then maybe you have an issue, but I don't think you would have one with a Bryce Underwood or a Cutter Boley. Let's go down with Jackson Hells. And he says, do you see Aaron Childs shutting down his recruitment before the start of his senior season? Yes, I do. I think Aaron has a pretty clear plan. He has 4 official visits set for the summer. I think he'll take those 4. Maybe there's a 5th one in there, maybe for a midweek or something. Right now, I think he takes those 4 and then he makes a decision soon after. So, yeah, I do think it will come before his senior season. I don't think it'll necessarily come before the end of spring, but I do think it's going to likely be a summer decision right now is what I would say. Let's go ahead and go down to Shane Johnson, and he says EJ, would Bryce Underwood be the biggest sign, not Jaden Davis? Yeah, I mean, Bryce Underwood would be a bigger land than Jaden Davis. If we're being completely honest, we're talking about the number 1 overall recruit in the country. So obviously he's ranked higher. He's a true 5-star across the board pretty much. And I mean, it's a local kid, right? I mean, he's an in-state guy. He's from a school that has been pretty anti-Michigan. So that would kind of help change the narrative at Belleville. I think it would change the narrative overall in the state of Michigan, though that's pretty much been gone over the last year. I don't know if you guys remember, but Michigan was getting a lot of flack from local coaches and different recruiting figureheads and stuff a couple years ago about their lack of prioritizing in-state prospects. But I think guys like Ron Bellamy and Steve Klingscale, even Mike Hart, have really helped change that narrative. But I think it only adds to that if Michigan's able to land a guy like Bryce Underwood. And then Bryce is so well connected, man. I mean, this is a kid that's always playing like Club 7-on-7 and doing different camps and stuff. I think Bryce would be the level of prospect that would help get those 5-star level receivers to join him at Michigan. So yeah, I would say Bryce would be the bigger sign. Let's go ahead and go down to Evan Corson, and he says, where would you say Michigan sits with Aaron Scott? And are there any other high level cornerbacks with interest in Michigan other than Scott and Wes? I would say Michigan's right in that top group. If Aaron Scott had a top 5, I would say Michigan would be in it. If Aaron Scott was setting OVs, I would say Michigan would get one. So they are a realistic option for Aaron Scott. They are right up there. Again, I just think he's going to be a really tough land. I mean, Ohio State is all in there. They're doing everything possible to land him. Obviously, Michigan has shown capable of beating Ohio State head to head. They did it this cycle with Jordan Marshall. So it's a possibility that they do it again with Aaron Scott, but there is still some work to do there. In terms of other high profile corners that Michigan's in the mix with, other than Aaron Scott and Bryce West, not a ton. I don't think it's the greatest year for corners. Like, I think it's maybe a weaker cycle for corners overall. I think Austin Alexander is a very realistic corner take if Michigan does not land Aaron Scott or Bryce West. I think he is a guy that you take. He's an ex-Wisconsin commit. I think he's a little underrated as an industry 3-star. I believe On3 has him as an on 300 prospect. So Austin Alexander would be one to watch at the corner position if Michigan does not get Bryce West or Aaron Scott. And then you have some more project guys that have visited. Jeremiah Lowe out of Kentucky was on campus this weekend. Nigel Maynard out of Tennessee was on campus last weekend. So both are 3-star sleeper type prospects that Steve Klinkskill usually likes from states he really likes, like Klink's all over guys in Tennessee and to a lesser extent Kentucky. So yeah, I think other than West and Scott, it's more upside guys than high level prospects. I think a guy that could play corner that's highly rated is Jordan Johnson Rubel. And Michigan's recruiting him as a safety, but he did start his high school career as a corner. I think Johnson Rubel is extremely talented and versatile and can play anywhere in the secondary. And Jacob Oden, I think even as a commit, I mean, he's penciled in as a nickel, but and doesn't necessarily have elite speed, but I'd be interested to see him at corner. I really like his length and just his natural instincts. Let's go ahead and go down to Kenma. And he says, do you think it is highly realistic that we land one of Underwood, Boley, or McIntyre? Yeah, I don't think it's not realistic. I think that, Underwood's already visited on multiple occasions and is in Michigan's own backyard. Cutter Boley has visited on multiple occasions. George McIntyre is set to make a spring game visit. I do think he'll stay south, though. I'm not very optimistic on McIntyre at all, but I do think Underwood and Boley are realistic high-level guys. If you miss on an Underwood or Boley, Michigan is still in the mix with guys like Stone Saunders and Ryan Montgomery, who have visited on multiple occasions. Both were featured in On3's initial On 300 rankings. But, if can Michigan get one of these three guys that you've listed in Underwood, Boley, or McIntyre? The answer is yes. Let's go ahead and go down to Victor Rodriguez. And he says, does Michigan really have any chance with Mylan Graham since he recently visited but haven't heard much before or after? Actually, the great Zach Libby did go see Mylan Graham last weekend and had an update over on the Wolverine.com, which you can go read. I can tell you that Graham is looking to make a return visit to Michigan, so that is a plus. But like I said earlier, it seems like he is leaning towards Ohio State and would be a tough land. Let's go down to Indigo Ronan, and he says, does Zach Libby even know what pizza is? No, he doesn't. I mean, that was a terrible take. Little Caesars is the best pizza he's ever had. I mean, he's obviously like never left his house. It's such a bad take. One of the world's worst all-time takes was Zach Libby, the pref for yesterday. All right, guys, it left. So want to give you guys the opportunity to hit that donate button. Make sure you come in with a super chat if you want to skip ahead and guarantee your question is answered. We will do a little rapid fire through some of the remaining questions. But before we do, it is a good time to remind you to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st. It's the perfect time with the spring game this weekend. And also make sure to use promo code WolverineBOGO over at vitaminenergy.com to get some much needed energy in your life. All right, let's go ahead and go down to rapid fire time. Daniel Hill is who Go Blue 81 was talking about earlier. New linebacker target out of Mississippi. Seems like he's really stuck on wanting to play running back, so I'm not sure how open Michigan would be to that. They did offer him at linebacker, and he did tell me that Michigan's been one of his favorite schools. He was really excited about the offer. He actually met Chris Partridge at Ole Miss. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a possibility. It looks like we did have a super chat come in that I completely missed. So, big apologies to you, Nick. Nick with the 199 super chat says, "Would you say that Kurt Campbell is a stud recruiter now?" No, I wouldn't say Kurt Campbell is a stud recruiter now, but he's definitely been a big improvement over Matt Weiss. It just goes to show you that with the want to and the effort and just being able to personally connect, you can land high profile recruits at the University of Michigan. Now, it always helps that Jim Harbaugh is going to have a big hand in quarterback recruiting. But I think Kurt Campbell's definitely been a big upgrade over Matt Weiss. I wouldn't call him a stud recruiter since we have such a small sample size, but he's getting compliments left and right, getting showered with praise. So I think Kurt Campbell has a lot of potential as a recruiter. Remember, Campbell didn't do a lot of recruiting early on. I mean, when he was a staffer at Penn State, he wasn't super involved there. Even as a staffer at Michigan, he wasn't super involved. Being here in Norfolk, I checked around, and he didn't do a ton of recruiting as the offensive coordinator at Old Dominion. So he just hasn't done it a lot. But the way he's attacked it so far, I think has been great. And I think just being surrounded by guys that are really good recruiters like Steve Clinkscale or Sharon Moore or Jay Harbaugh or Ron Bellamy, this staff has a lot of really good recruiters that can help him along. All right, let's go back to rapid fire so we can get out of here. We've gone over the 30-minute mark. Marcus Thomas says, Jaden Davis, still feel confident in my pick for Friday. Are Ohio recruits pressuring Aaron Scott to commit next? Luke Hamilton, Ben Roebuck, Jordan Marshall, Ted Hammond, all those guys are really working hard on Aaron Scott, and other Ohio recruits. They're definitely doing their best there. And it looks like we have a $9.99 super chat from Nick. So again, apologies for missing your first super chat. Have you heard if Willy Wonka has finally gotten his Oompa Loompa Sam Webb back in the factory yet? I don't get his beef with you. Yeah, I think he's back there. Easter is right around the corner, so they need people making chocolate, and I have not heard a peep from Sam Webb this week. So I'm assuming he's either in the factory making the chocolate and definitely consuming the chocolate. I will say that. All right, let's go ahead and go down to sorry guys, again, tough without a producer. Gavin, he says, does MVB still come to Michigan with the addition of Jaden Davis? So Gavin referring to Michael Van Buren, and I would say no. I think Jaden Davis will be the only quarterback in this class. Let's go ahead and go down to C. Faust, and he says, what's your take on the present coaching staff? Is this the best it has been in recent memory? Since I've been on the beat, yes, I would say it's the best it's been. It's a really cohesive unit, a lot of really good recruiters, a lot of really good on-field coaches on staff, some really good staff members as well in the support system, like Dylan Ronnie. So yeah, I would say that it's definitely been the best I can remember. The only part I would like to see improvement on is the actual recruiting department. Let's go ahead and go down to Michigan Rick, and he says, any interest in the Sparty decommit, Nick Marsh? Not right now. No real movement there. D2K2, where do you honestly see Michigan's class finishing in 24? I would say top 10, and that should be pretty much it. If I missed your question on the rapid fire, I apologize. Oh, we did have one under the super chat. So we'll make this the last question. We have gone over the 30-minute mark. Appreciate all you guys that have joined tonight. Before I answer this last question, one last plug. Make sure to subscribe to the Wolverine.com today for just $29.99 until August 31st of this year. It's a great time to subscribe with the spring game right around the corner. If you joined the show late, you can watch the replay here on our YouTube channel. Make sure to like this video and subscribe. It helps with the algorithm. Seth Scott says, do you think we go big for a quarterback in the 2025 class? What would be your next immediate position get for 25? I know it's a little ahead and not to get too excited, but 24 looks to be epic. So, yes, they are going to swing for the fences in 25 for quarterbacks, regardless of the Jaden Davis decision. I mean, they are all in for guys like Bryce Underwood and Cutter Boley. And like I said earlier, they are realistic gets. And then my immediate position, I guess the position I would go after the hardest. I definitely love to see Michigan land a high level corner if they happen to miss out on Aaron Scott and Bryce West. So I would say, corner would be one position that I would be really interested in. And then nose, nose is up for grabs this cycle. I did the mock class today over at the Wolverine, and I couldn't figure out who to pencil in at the nose spot. It would be great to see Michigan land a really high level nose like a Kenneth Grant in the 2025 recruiting class. All right, guys, apologies for the technical difficulties. Like I said earlier, we are still without a producer. So hopefully that didn't bother you guys too much. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. That's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for everything. Hope you guys subscribe and tune in next week for our Tuesday and Wednesday show. Zach Libby will be back next Tuesday for his terrible pizza takes, and I will be back on Wednesday to answer your questions. And by then, the Jaden Davis recruitment will be over, so we'll be able to talk about that and much more. Anyway, guys, have a great night.